Now, those who've known me for a while know I've never been really big into comics, whether it be like comic books in general or comic characters or the DCEU or the MCU. It was never really my thing. But over the past year and a half maybe, I've been getting really into DC comics, most specifically Batman, but I've been reading a little bit of other things on the side like the Teen Titans. I've been reading, never a Superman comic, but you know, just the small things, right? Some Green Arrow. Anyways, point being is I've never been a huge fan of comic books and only recently just got into them with mostly Batman. So really just DC, because I'll never get into Marvel. Fuck Marvel. If I wanted to read Marvel, I'd just go on Pornhub if I wanted to see Spider-Man get cucked. Like, what the fuck are they doing over there, right? But anyways, point being, not too much into comics or the characters. Loving DC so far, but we're still new to it. So I thought I'd explore some little stories on YouTube, because what I do a lot of the time is I like to watch YouTubers talk about different comic books. And to be completely transparent, it was mostly me just watching YouTubers like Hugbees and V and Fuso, most specifically Hugbees talking about different Batman comics and V and Fuso talking about Gotham, the TV show, which I really love, by the way. I fucking love Gotham a lot. But I decided to branch out a little bit, and I decided to watch this video on a comic I'd never really heard of. I Am Not Starfire. So I watched this guy's video, and just literally 3 minutes in, I was like, oh my god, no. What is this guy talking about? No. And it just it kept getting progressively worse. I didn't think it could get worse, but it was just getting worse and worse. This guy was terrible at critiquing this. And so I thought I'd go over his video and talk to you guys about why this guy just simply does not understand this comic book. I went ahead and read it myself, and I'm gonna go over this guy's clearly really biased against this, and I'll go more into detail on why I think that. Just keep in mind that that's going to be based off of some assumptions that we'll get to later on in the video, and most specifically in the conclusion. But for now, let's get started on why this guy just Mr. Collector King does not understand I Am Not Starfire.
Right off the bat, the book shows the reader that Mandy is nothing like her mom. Starfire is tall, fit, beautiful, and has superpowers. And her daughter is the exact opposite. And there's no subtlety in this. It's a direct head-to-head comparison.
Right off the bat, you can kind of tell he's being a bit nitpicky. There doesn't always need to be subtlety when it comes to things. Sometimes you can just show readers what you're trying to portray directly. And it's a comic book. There's going to be less subtlety in a comic book. It's blatantly shown before you. That's the glory of this medium. So to nitpick this, that there's no subtlety, is a little bit ridiculous and unfair. And you're going to see this happen a lot.
Whoa there, hold it. You're trying to tell me that out of Starfire's powers, which include superhuman durability, speed, reflexes, agility, endurance, and stamina, semi-invulnerability, an accelerated healing factor, flight, energy projection, starbolts, she also has the ability to learn a language by kissing someone, she has immunity to intense cold and heat, energy absorption, and self-sustenance? You're trying to tell me that her daughter inherited none of them.
Get out!
The way he listed those powers was a little suspicious. Hold on, I gotta look something up real quick. There's no way! No, he didn't. Holy fucking shit. Oh my god, he just read it word for word from the Heroes Wiki? Are you kidding me? No wonder it sounded so out of place. Motherfucker was reading on the Heroes Wiki.
Superhuman durability, speed, reflexes, agility, endurance, and stamina, semi-invulnerability, an accelerated healing factor, flight, energy projection, starbolts, she also has the ability to learn a language by kissing someone, she has immunity to intense cold and heat, energy absorption, and self-sustenance.
Word for word! In order! Bar for bar! Whew. Oh man. Oh, I needed that. I needed that so bad. So, what most people don't know and is important for this discussion is that Starfire got a lot of her powers from being tortured and experimented on, not from being a Tamaran, like he's trying to say. Starfire actually got her powers from Scion experiments, most specifically her star bolts. We don't know exactly what is inherent to the Tamarans, but we do know there are a lot of Tamarans who can only just fly. So Mandy not having any powers when she's half human, presumably, it makes sense. So this is, again, just a nitpick, and fair enough, just a misunderstanding.
Get a very accurate description of these two characters and the dynamic they share. Starfire is cheerful and happy, and she seems to be looking after her daughter, and Mandy is in a foul mood and has an expression that can only be described as resting bitch face.
Love it when people use resting bitch face as a description. Very poggers, low-key, not gonna lie. No, but seriously, she had a neutral face in the first panel, but it was only in the second panel after Starfire started messing with her hair that Mandy looked actually upset at all. So again, just really nitpicky shit.
I'm having a really hard time believing that this is actually Starfire's daughter and not the love child of the Penguin and the author.
So this is when I started to get genuinely suspicious about this guy and like what this video is. And it clicks 2 and 2 together. I'm going to show you a clip just a few seconds ahead that really solidified to me that this guy is making this video in bad faith.
Enter Mariko Tamaki. You know how they say a picture is worth 1,000 words? Yeah. Let's not be around the bush and get straight to the point. She's a feminist, an LGBTQ activist, a vocal critic of fat shaming, and she works to promote diversity and inclusion. Personal pronouns in her Twitter bio? You know it. It's been proven time and again that social justice activists insert their personal politics and agendas in everything they write at the expense of the characters and the story. So before we get back to I am self-insert, let's have a quick look at one of her most famous books, This One Summer. So this is a book about 2 teenage girls discovering themselves and their sexuality while battling family dynamics and mental disabilities. Here's some art from the book. Did these look like teenagers to you? Now, surprise, surprise, some people thought this book is inappropriate considering that it's apparently sexually explicit, contains profanity and drug use, and they had it removed from a few places. And what was Mariko Tamaki's response? That it's erasing queer lives. So essentially, she called her critics homophobic.
A picture's worth 1,000 words, but everything you just said is worth a few million. Holy shit. Okay, so we can paint the picture here. He doesn't even have to say it directly. We can make a logical assumption here that he is someone who disagrees with what they would call the radical left, or democratic policies, or just social activists in general, or those who push for LGBTQ rights, anti-fat shaming and all that. This guy is very clearly anti-that, and the biggest portrait of this is him trying to call out the pronouns in bio, which is so funny. And it really puts things back into perspective. We go back to him referencing the resting bitch face, which is used a lot in sexism, where it's like, oh, if a woman isn't smiling, she's a bitch, right? And it goes back to like, oh, she's not Starfire's daughter, she's the daughter of the Penguin, which goes into fat shaming because she isn't, quote unquote, sexy like Starfire is. And you really start getting a larger picture. And he starts going into this woman's like genuine life. Like there is zero reason to actually be talking about the author here, and even less reason to be talking about an entirely different work, because this doesn't help you paint a narrative. In fact, it paints a narrative about you, that you are actively going out of your way to point out flaws, quote unquote, flaws in her character, instead of flaws in her work, which would blatantly just be an ad hominem. And this is why I had this suspicion that this was made entirely in bad faith. And I don't think it could have been made more clear. We get this perspective that he might be sexist, and he might be anti-LGBTQ, or at least anti-trans, and against pronouns for some reason, even though everyone has pronouns. Like, you literally go by he, him, I'm pretty sure. But whatever, I guess. So really, this isn't even a critique of the story. He's just gonna consistently go into these things where it's like, oh, he's pushing the politics of social justice at me. And let's be so for real right now. The Republicans make entire TV shows about it. Like, listen, yes, politics exist. Politics will always exist in movies. We've seen it in TV shows all the way back to like the 1980s with like King of the Hill, which phenomenal show, by the way. And even nowadays you have like the fucking, you have LGBTQ shows, or you have like Democratic shows, you have Republican shows, and a lot are bad. Like, look at The New Norm, Mr. Burcham, specifically these two who, like, what the fuck were they thinking? Point being, Everyone tries to push their fucking political agenda, and painting this narrative that it's exclusively those that are socially active and trying to make a better world for the oppressed is actually ridiculous and shows just how bad faith this critique is. So it's not that he just doesn't understand I'm not Starfire, he doesn't understand how to properly critique something.
Anyway, let's get back to the book. Mandy is having an appointment with the guidance counselor who's talking to her about college, and she says that she's not going. The guidance counselor tells Mandy that college is the next step too, and Mandy interrupts her saying, towards being in debt for the rest of my life. Hold it right there. The book literally began with Starfire on the cover of Vogue. She's a superhero and a member of the Teen Titans, most probably subsidized by the Justice League. Long story short, one called to Batman, and they can build a college for Mandy.
The comic has already established several times that Mandy does not want to rely on her mother. It even shows her cooking instead of her mom. It really goes to show Mandy doesn't want to rely on her mother for cooking, let alone is she gonna want her to pay for her to go to college. That's ridiculous. Like, how have you not understood this yet?
We see some of the other kids in the school who are actually friendly towards Mandy and are asking about her mom because they appear to be her fans.
What did you say about subtlety earlier? Because just now, there was the tiniest little bit of subtlety, and it flew right over your head. You had a two-piece fucking puzzle, had one in your hand, and you were trying to swallow the other piece. What are you doing, dude? Yes, they were being friendly to her, but not because they like Mandy or are trying to be nice to her. It is very clear they only care about Mandy because of Starfire. You're not understanding the narrative it's trying to paint because you are so caught up in being a whiny bitch.
We get a one-page flashback of Mandy's school years, which are apparently justification for her to hate everybody in her school with the exception of Lincoln.
So to avoid having to make this point over and over again, so I can just cut out a lot of his video, make this easier on myself and easier to watch so you're not hearing the same point over and over and over again, is that Mandy has issues with being compared to her mother. What aren't you understanding? She has a famous mother, so there's always these expectations that are put on her, but she can't live up to them. She doesn't have powers like her mom. She isn't beautiful like her mom. People only try to be nice to her or care about her because of her mom. Everything in her life is not her own. It belongs to her mother. You have no reading comprehension. I'm getting so fucking mad for no reason because you are so fucking dumb. How have you not understood this? How did you read this entire comic and not understand what the entire premise was? It is so frustrating to hear it over and over and over again. It's like, oh, she doesn't appreciate her mom. Oh, she doesn't like these people for no reason. She has reason. She is depressed. She has no motivation because she can never live up to the expectations that are being given to her. And yes, Starfire is doing her absolute best. And I'm not saying Starfire deserves to be treated badly. What I am saying is, when a teenager is struggling this much with their emotions, they're going to lash out. You're wanting Mandy to basically be a fucking doll, to have no emotion of her own whatsoever and just go by the motions and just be happy with everything. She can't be depressed. We can't have that. What? Depression in my superhero comic? What am I gonna do? Shut up. I'm so tired of you. Oh my god.
They're hanging out in class, and her daydreaming session is interrupted by her diverse teacher.
Why the fuck is that a necessary comment? Fuck you, dude. Don't say that. What the hell is wrong with you? Like, actually, what? That is completely unnecessary. What is wrong with this guy?
We get a glimpse of something that could have been vastly more interesting, the Teen Titans fighting giant beetles in space.
Like the Tomb of Tut. The final piece of the puzzle has been brought before me. Yeah, I figured out what is wrong with this guy. Another thing, obviously. So, he doesn't care for subtlety. He doesn't care for storytelling. No. Storytelling can't be okay. We can't have emotions. We can only have the epic big fight scenes. Come on, guys, agree with me. Agree with me, please. I need you to agree with me. We can only watch for fight scenes. Fuck romance. Fuck comedy. There can only be fight scenes. Please.
But we're pretty much instantly yanked back to the school where Mandy manages to blow herself up. Then literally on the next page, Mandy is at Claire's house. Seriously, this is how this book is. The lab explosion, literally the next page is her going to her crush's house.
What, like, did you want, like, 5 more pages where she, like, goes to the nurse, talks to the nurse about what happened, tells everyone about the exact mixture she made that caused her to blow up, go black, reflect on her actions, possibly have to go to the hospital for another 5 pages, and then we see her, like, go to bed, and, like, we hear her thoughts, like, what she has every time before she goes to bed, and then she finally goes to bed, and that way we know every single step she took before going to her crush's house, because why would they do that? The in-between really doesn't matter.
Here's a reminder that this is the book's protagonist that you're supposed to be rooting for.
Literally, who said that? Who said you have to fucking root for everything Mandy does and agree with all her decisions? You're saying that. Someone's never heard of the villain protagonist. But whatever, yeah, you always gotta root for the protagonist. Dude, come on. This one's easy.
Mandy checks out her social media, because that's what the kids do, and the next day she's in the girls' locker room getting ready for a game. Of course, Mandy's not paying attention, and she doesn't even bother to lift a finger to try to catch the ball that's passing within an arm's length of her. One of the girls tells her that she sucks, and I have to agree, Mandy sucks. Again, I would like to point out the pacing of this book. This is page 53, and this is page 54. The flow of this book is horrendous. There's no pacing to speak of, and reading it is actually a chore.
Yes, because I too want to sit through an entire baseball game with barely any talking, because everyone loves baseball. Be so for real. Come on, man. Like, be so for real. You do not want to see the baseball game. We get an important side note that happens during the game and then after the game. We don't need the in-between.
But what I find baffling is that for some reason, Mandy's crush appears to like her, when Mandy is just not likable.
Yeah, so some people have this thing called sympathy where they can see someone that's clearly depressed and really down on life overall, and they want to be nice to them and try and help them. But clearly you are not someone that experiences empathy because you have no clue what emotions even are. I am willing to believe you are a robot. Please tell me you are. That would be much cooler than believing you're a real person.
What could have possibly given you the idea that Mandy isn't a warrior? Is it the attitude, the lack of discipline, or maybe because she's so out of shape that if she tries to run half a block, she's probably going to collapse from exhaustion?
Wow, unnecessary fat joke. Really not beating the fat shaming allegations, you miserable cunt. You're just as annoying and obnoxious as you claim Mandy to be. Like, what the fuck?
Why are you so fucking negative all the time?
Starfire intervenes and tells her to run. So the two sisters start to fight, and we get a surprise guest appearance from Humpty Dumpty. No, wait, never mind. That's just Mandy.
God, this guy is such a fucking asshole. Like, what, did you not get enough hugs from your mom or something? Like, why are you such a miserable dickhead? So if you've noticed, this video is probably going to turn out only a couple minutes longer than the original video. And the reason I'm pointing this out and bringing it up is because as dramatic as I was being, he actually does make a few good points. Most specifically, that Mandy is a self-insert. There's no doubt that Mandy is a self-insert, but I don't think a character being a self-insert is inherently always going to be a bad thing. A character can be a self-insert and still be well-written, and I don't believe calling something a self-insert is an insult or any kind of valid criticism. You can write yourself into your own works if it's done tastefully and if it's done well. I see absolutely no issue with that. He also made some good points at the very end, which is why I just cut out the very end as a whole, where he basically goes into how Mandy didn't earn her powers and she just kind of got them and then was stronger than Blackfire. Even though Mandy has absolutely zero training with powers, zero understanding of her powers, blah, 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 blah. And it also kind of takes away from a previous point I made of Tamranians and how they get their powers, because Mandy can just be born with them. So, this is a problem I also have with the book, and so it's not something I'll be wanting to point out in the video. Overall, I really just wanted to point out like the issues with how he is formulating a lot of his arguments. Like, all of his good points are hidden in this mask of like political agenda, which is really fucking weird from someone that tried to criticize this for its political agenda. So there's a lot of hypocrisy being thrown around here that really should be kept out when doing critiques like this. I always do my best to try and be as impartial as possible when it comes to politics when reviewing media. So there's some very clear issues that I obviously had with this video that I needed to point out, and some flaws with his criticism. Overall, this is not a good comic. I'm not here to say like, oh, this is good. It's why the video's like, oh, this guy, he doesn't understand critiquing, you know, instead of understand the novel, because I'm not going to defend the graphic novel. It's not very good, but it's not as atrocious as he tries to paint it. I'd say it's like maybe a 6 out of 10, maybe a little higher, but really not anything better. The ending is terrible. There are some good themes, but overall it just falls flat. And he does, like I said, he has valid criticism, but a lot of it just falls flat, and he misses the point of the series in general because he's so stuck up about the political stuff. So when you're going to go into critiquing something, you want to go in impartially and give the best possible critique you can without letting it be muddled by personal beliefs. And that's how it should always be. So that's what the point of this video was, and I hope you all enjoyed. So have a wonderful night.